Hi, I'm Jake with Viewrail, and today we're going to be installing cable on level runs. Let's go ahead and get started. First thing, what we're going to want to do is make sure that we have all of our tools nearby, as well as all of our components that we're going to be using for tensioning our cable. So let's start with the tools that are going to come in your installation kit with us. We've got our multifunction tool, which has crimping dies for both rod and cable. We're going to focus on the bottom dies, which are 10 millimeter, for crimping our cable. We're also going to use the cable cutters that are located right here to cut our cable to length. Next, we have a pounding block for pounding in our steel insert sleeves, a 1/4 inch Allen wrench that we're going to use to tension our cable, and our nylon sleeve, which we're going to use to protect our cable when we're tensioning it, and we're going to hold our cable with a vice grip. Tools that don't come in the installation kit that I like to use are a Sharpie, a tape measure, dead blow hammer, and a set of pliers or vice grips. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with level tension to level tension. First, we're going to identify the components involved in that, and so we'll walk over here and do that. We have our tension receiver, which takes the 1/4 inch Allen wrench, our threaded crimp fitting, which we're going to insert our cable into and then crimp twice, and our steel insert sleeve that we're going to drive into that 1/2 inch hole to finish it off, make it look nice, and hold that cable really tight in the center of our 1/2 inch holes. So that's my tensioning post. My intermediate post is going to be my A2. It's going to have 1/2 inch holes on each side, and we're going to use a steel insert for each side there. So I'll need to make sure that I put these on as I'm threading the cable through the posts. And down here we have the same as our other tensioning posts. We have tension receiver, threaded crimp fitting, and steel insert sleeve. So looks like we've got everything here. Now we're ready to go ahead and measure between the posts to get a rough cut length for our cable, which we will then cut down to size after we've taken a couple more steps. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so I like to go ahead and measure from outside of post to outside of post, and make sure you're going on the same run of cable when you do this. I'm looking at about 62 1/4. So I probably want to cut my cable at about 5'6" to be safe, 5.5 feet, 66 inches, which I've already done here ahead of time. Next, I just need to choose which side I want to start with. Because I have a level tension kit on each end, it really doesn't matter which one I start with. So I'm going to go ahead and choose to start with this one over here on our eye post. So let me grab my crimping tool. The way that I like to crimp this cable is I like to use the ground just to steady it, as well as my foot to kind of hold it into place. I go ahead and insert my threaded crimp fitting into the tool, and I'm not going to push down because I don't want to crimp it without my cable in it, but this will just hold it in place. So I'm going to go ahead and find my threaded crimp fitting. Sometimes if you put your finger here to hold the crimp fitting, it won't fall out. All right, I'm in right there. I'm going to go ahead and crimp down once, turn 90 degrees, offset my crimp, and crimp a second time like so, and we're all set to be able to tension this up. So here's our crimps. I don't feel the best about the strength of these crimps. I think that this is a little bit weak. I'd like a little bit more of a crimping depression, so I can do that by using a 3/16 Allen wrench on my multi-tool and just tightening up this like so. So when I crimp again, I'm going to have a greater crimping force on these. So I'm going to go ahead and just put it back in here again and crimp again.
Did you get it tight up? Okay, great.
Once, rotate 90 degrees, offset, and crimp again. And I like those crimps a lot better, so I feel like this is calibrated now, and I'm ready to continue. All right, from here, I'm going to go ahead and place my cable through this 1/2 inch hole. Then I'm going to take my tension receiver and I'm going to put it on 4 full turns. about right there. I want to make sure that I have about a 1/2 inch or a little bit more where I can still thread this up and tension it for my final tension. But yeah, we're looking for about a 1/2 inch from the end of this to the tension receiver. From here, I'm ready to identify the components necessary for this run. So with my level tension kit, I have my tension receiver threaded crimp fitting already. So I need a steel insert. I need to put this on facing the post. So there's this one, going on like so. And then I need one for my A2 intermediate. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one in the opposite direction, like so. Now I'm ready to go ahead and feed this through the posts again. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Going in this hole. All right, I'm set up. Here's another pro tip. If you look at the threaded crimp fitting, it should basically be there right on the inside of the post. That's how you can know that you've done 4 full turns. If it looks more like this, second. If it looks more like this, you might want to tension it a little bit more. You never want your threaded crimp fitting to be past the inside face of your post. Otherwise, when we pound in our steel inserts, we'll hit that and we won't be able to pound it in. So just make sure that it's at least flush with the post, if not a little bit inside the post, or the inside face of the post, the wall thickness. That's where I like to prep it. All right, I've double checked to make sure I have the correct components on and in the correct sequence. Now I can go ahead and put on my other steel insert sleeves. Again, making sure that I have them in the correct orientation. This one for here, and I'm gonna put this one on the other side for my level tension kit over here. So I'm ready to go. I'm just gonna double check, keeping the cable under just hand tension here, that I'm fully seated on this side and that I'm not caught on the lip or anything like that, because you can pull a wrong measurement if that happens, which it does sometimes. Another pro tip, if you'd like these to not fall off when you're making a cut, you can put a little piece of tape on here just to hold them on. I'm gonna go ahead and do that now, otherwise when I cut, they're just gonna go flying off, which is a pain to find in the house later on. So I'm gonna grab a piece of tape. Make sure I have plenty of space here. It doesn't have to be fancy, it just needs to make sure that these won't fall off. All right, now that I am fully seated, I'm ready to go ahead and measure for my cut length for level tension to level tension. All I'm gonna do here is simply mark the cable right at the inside of the post, then I'm gonna add 1/2 inch to that. So 0.5 inches or 1/2 inch. You can do that with a tape measure, or if you've been doing this for a long time like me, I usually just go to the middle and take 1/2 of that, and there's my 1/2 inch. But for the sake of being very accurate, let's go ahead and just measure that out. So take a little piece of tape here. Pull my cable tight, and then mark right at the inside of the post with this tape, like so. All right, and then I'm gonna add a 1/2 inch onto that with my Sharpie. Whenever I'm using my tape measure and I'm doing small distances like this, I like to start at the 1 just for a little bit more accuracy. So I'm holding my 1 at the tape there, and I'm gonna go to 1.5, like so. All right, so I've got my 1/2 inch mark, which I'll just scribe over a little bit more. And if you ever forget this or you don't have the installation guide, you can just simply use your fittings to confirm that you have it cut at the correct length. That right there gives me exactly what I need. So now I'm ready to go ahead and cut. Right, ready to cut this. Go ahead and insert my cable into my multi-function tool, needing to have the the handles on this all the way open for the best result. Go ahead and come down right on my line. If anything, I want to be a little bit long than a little bit short. If it's too long and you can't tension it, we can always cut right next to the crimp and still reuse the cable. But if we cut it too short, we need to either reuse that cable for another run that is shorter, or just cut another cable. So I guess the moral of the story is rather be long than short, but let's be right on this one. Go ahead and cut. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my tape off here. And this might happen where your cable wants to unwind a little bit. Simply just twist in the direction that the cable is braided, and we're ready to now go ahead and crimp on our second threaded crimp fitting. After double or even triple checking, if this is your first time, that you have all the components on that are necessary. Once I crimp the other side of my cable, I will not be able to add additional components on, which is why it's so important to double and triple check this stuff. All right, I'm ready to go ahead and crimp this. Put my threaded crimp fitting over my cable, like so. All right. And again, going to use the bottom set of dies for this. Make sure my cable is fully seated. Crimp once. Move it back. Offset it, turn 90 degrees. And, sorry, crimp twice. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this tape as well. Now I'm ready to go ahead and tension this up. So make sure that this is fully seated. Come in the other side, making sure that I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runs down. Then I'm gonna come to the back side of the post and just get this threaded with my finger. If you look through, I find it's easier to get that started. And I'm just gonna start tensioning with my finger, getting my run finger tight. And I'm happy with that. I have plenty of threads left. If you notice in here, we've definitely threaded this side more than this one. And I really want them to be even, so I'm actually gonna loosen this side a hair, and I'm gonna come over here and tighten this one a little bit more. So, all right, got all my components on in the proper location. I'm gonna then repeat this step for every single run of cable, just getting them finger tight. We don't wanna do any tensioning at all until all of our cables are in, and we're not gonna start putting in our cable or rod until we have our handrail on. If we start tensioning, the posts are just gonna start bowing in, especially when you don't have a handrail on. And the tensioning sequence is gonna be from middle out. So yeah, there's really no point in tensioning these at all until all of the cable runs are in. After I have it to about where I want it, I'm ready to go ahead and pound in my steel inserts. I'm not gonna wait until I've completely tensioned the system to do this, just because sometimes it's a little bit harder to get them in that way. So yeah, let's go ahead and use our pounding block and dead blow hammer to drive one of these into our posts. So I've got my driving block here. It's got a little slot. So whichever way you feel more comfortable with, I find it's easiest to kind of bring it from the side when I'm doing it. And then we're just gonna make sure that our steel inset sleeve is lined up for that hole, and we're gonna give this a pretty firm hit to make sure that this drives in. If you don't get it in one, you'll have to just continue hitting it until it does go in. So that one went in really nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue that for the rest of my holes here. Right, this is gonna hold our cable in really tight in those 1/2-inch holes. Again, I wanna make sure that this is lined up, and then Nice hit, and all ready to go. So yeah, after all of these cables are then tensioned just finger tight, our sequence is going to be starting from the middle, up 1, down 2, up 3, down 4, et cetera, until we have all of our cables tight. Once you get to the top and bottom here, you'll probably notice that your middle ones are a little bit loose because the post is probably slightly bowing a little bit from the tension. But yeah, just go back to the middle ones and tighten them up. Make sure that they're all equal in their tension, and move on to your next run. So it really doesn't matter if I start in the middle or the top or the bottom when I'm initially running all my cable, but I usually prefer to either start at the top or the bottom, move my way down, just so that I don't have other cables in my way as we're moving up or down. That's just a habit that I formed from doing a lot of installs. But really, any sequence that you want to start running your cable is fine. The only one that matters is when we actually start tensioning to do middle out. All right, now that we've finished up with our level tension to level tension, let's go ahead and move on to our inside post mount kit to our level tension kit. So you'll see that when we have a corner post or a C post, and one has a 5/16 hole and the other one has 1/2 inch holes. That's going to take our level tension kit. So this is going to be our anchor side, and that's going to be our tension side. And we always have to start with our anchor side when doing this. So let's just start with that. Again, we're going to do the same process that I did before, where I'm going to measure outside to outside and add about 6 inches. So about 4/6. Got a piece of cable here that I believe will do the trick. You'll probably want to be a little bit more precise than I am when you're getting these rough cuts, just to save more cable, because we don't want to be wasting a lot. But I had this piece laying around, and it's going to do just fine for us. All right, so we're going to double check, make sure that we have all of our components. We have our level tension kit side over here, which we just saw. Tension receiver, threaded crimp fitting, and steel insert. So for the inside post mount kit that works with a 5/16 hole, we have our cable stop, which we're going to crimp. We have our retainer clip, and we have our adhesive sleeve. All right, so yeah, when we have a corner post or when we have an inside post mount kit, we always need to start by crimping that side on first, and then taking our measurement over from our level tension kit. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and insert my cable stop into my multifunction tool, like so. I'm then going to go ahead and find that with my cable. This. And I like to make sure that that cable is pretty much flush with the end of the cable stop. I don't really want it hanging out like this, otherwise it might interfere with our level tension kit on the other side of the post. So feel good about that. I'm going to go ahead and crimp down once, turn 90 degrees, offset my crimp, and crimp again. All right, now that I've got this cable stop on, I'm ready to go ahead and put on my termination washer. So, that slide to the bottom, and then my adhesive sleeve, making sure that the sticky pull-off red tab is facing the post to cover up the 5/16 hole and make it look nice and clean. All right, good there. Now, all we need to do is insert our cable stop first into the 5/16 hole, and then turn our termination washer sideways. Try to fish it into this hole as well, like so. I find it's easier now to kind of move it, and when it's in there, it will not come out. The only way I can really get this out now is by trying to bring it through one of my 1/2 inch holes, but if you don't have a C post, you won't have that opportunity. So we're all set there, and now I'm ready to go ahead and put my other component on for my level tension kit. It's going to be a steel insert sleeve, making sure that it's facing the right way so that I can pound it in. Okay. I'm going to grab a piece of tape just to hold these on when I cut it. Alrighty. Make sure we're fully seated here in the correct position. And make sure that you're going to the same hole as you did on the other side. So I think that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up from the top. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, I'm ready to go ahead and use my tape, or if you're fast like me, I'm just going to use a Sharpie and mark this at the inside of the post. My steel insert's going to go ahead and cover this up. So I'm not too worried about making a mark on that cable that will be seen later. From here, we're just going to go ahead and add that 1/2 inch again. All right, going from 1 inch, go from 2 inches to 1.5 inches, like so. Just double checking to make sure that I was accurate. Marked the cable at the inside of the post, and we added on 1/2 inch. And that's going to be the mark that I'm cutting, and it looks like it's about 1/4 of the post if I were to split it up equally. So feeling really good about that.
And Jason just texted back and said
All right, I've got that right on my line. I'm going to go ahead and cut my cable. So make sure that these strands did not come apart. Looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and put on my threaded crimp fitting like so. So yeah, before I crimp again, I'm just going to double, triple check, make sure I have my components on for the correct spot. So adhesive sleeve, it's going to stick to here, cover that 5/16 hole, and then I have my steel insert sleeve that's going to work with my level tension kit. So all good, ready to crimp. Okay, make sure the cable's fully seated. Down once, rotate 90 degrees, offset crimp, and again, like so. I probably crimped these a little bit closer than I would have liked, but I'm still very happy with that. I'm gonna go ahead and remove my tape and thread on my tension receiver, so. Right, I've got that finger tight. What I like to do is I like to make sure that my cable is going right through the center of my hole here, so I can kind of move it around still while it's still not fully tensioned. This is just going to make it look really, really nice, perfectly in the center of the hole. And then I'm ready to go ahead and give it a little bit of tension, a little bit more than this. I don't think I can finger tight it anymore, but I can either just go ahead and drive my steel insert sleeve in here first and then tension it, or I can give it a little bit more tension first. But again, we're going to repeat this process another 10 times on this 39-inch system before we actually do any of our final tensioning. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and hit this in right now over here. Right. And grab my 1/4 inch Allen wrench and my neoprene sleeve. I'll go ahead and put my neoprene sleeve over my cable. So, take my pliers. Grip this pretty tight, and I like to have my pliers kind of as close to the post as possible. I feel like I get the most control out of that. I'm going to take my 1/4 inch Allen wrench, give it a little bit of tension here. Which I'm really happy with. Yeah, and then repeat the process for every time. The last thing I do after I have everything tensioned up is I'm going to put my adhesive sleeves on, and that's simply removing the red backing and applying some pressure to the post, making sure that that's going to make good contact. If your posts have been sitting around your garage a long time and they've got dust on them, I would recommend cleaning off any dust just with a damp paper towel to make sure that this adhesive is going to last as long as it should and not come off. So that is inside post mount kit to level tension, which you're going to run into if you get a corner post. And that's as simple as it is. All right, so that's running cable on level runs, both our level tension to level tension and our inside post mount to level tension. Stay tuned for more installation videos to make your install DIY friendly.